What if I told you that quitting could be the smartest decision you'll ever make? Sounds counterintuitive, right? We've been trained to believe that persistence is the key to success. Never give up, they say. But here's the thing. What if that endless struggle is only pulling you deeper into something that no longer serves you? As the saying goes, you don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Think about that. How often do we stay in situations that drain us? Jobs, relationships, projects, just because walking away feels like failure. Sometimes knowing when to step away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. There's a quiet strength in leaving behind what doesn't fit anymore. It's the ultimate act of courage. Curious about how quitting can lead to breakthrough moments in your life? Stick around, because we're about to dive deep into the art of walking away and why it might just be your secret to growth. Hit that subscribe button for more insights like this, and let's rethink what it really means to let go. 1. Quitting isn't failing. It's making space for something better. The first thing we need to address is this. Quitting does not equal failure. In a world where we're constantly bombarded with messages about perseverance and pushing through, it's easy to feel like quitting is some kind of defeat. But here's the truth. Quitting is often the most empowering move you can make. It's not about giving up on a dream or a goal, but rather about recognizing when something is no longer working and having the courage to pivot. Think of it as decluttering your life, making room for better things to come in. One of the biggest traps we fall into is the sunk cost fallacy, the belief that we've already invested too much time, effort, or energy into something, so we have to keep going. But staying in a situation that's making you miserable just because you've invested a lot into it is like throwing more money into a bad stock. You're not going to get back what you lost by sticking around. You're just going to lose more. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack. At first, it's manageable, but as you go on, more and more weight gets added. You keep telling yourself, I've already come this far. I can't drop it now. But eventually, that weight is going to slow you down so much that you're barely moving. Sometimes, the only way to keep progressing is to stop, take off the backpack, and move forward unburdened. Quitting can feel a lot like that. You're letting go of what's weighing you down to move forward more freely. There's this quote I love. You have to let go of the life you've planned to make space for the life that's waiting for you. That resonates with me deeply because it acknowledges that quitting doesn't mean you're turning your back on something good. It means you're trusting that something better is out there. It's a reminder that we don't have to cling to the past or to what isn't working just because it's familiar. Instead, we can have faith that by walking away, we're opening ourselves up to new possibilities. Now, I'm not saying you should quit every time something gets hard. Hard work is necessary for growth, but there's a difference between productive struggle and destructive persistence. Productive struggle helps you evolve. It challenges you in ways that make you stronger. Destructive persistence, on the other hand, is when you're pushing forward just for the sake of not quitting, even though every step is draining your energy and your spirit. The key is being honest with yourself about which one you're facing. A lot of people are afraid to quit because of how it might look to others. We worry about judgment, about being seen as weak or incapable. But here's the thing. Other people's opinions are not what you should be basing your decisions on. No one else is living your life, dealing with your challenges or feeling your emotions. You're the one who has to wake up every day and live with your choices, so you have to make them for you. In reality, quitting is often a sign of strength. It takes guts to say, "This isn't working for me anymore," and to walk away. It's easy to stay stuck out of fear, but it's brave to choose freedom over comfort. When you quit the things that aren't serving you, you're not closing a door, you're opening 1,000 new ones. So, the next time you're thinking about quitting, ask yourself this. Am I quitting because it's too hard, or am I quitting because it's not right for me anymore? If it's the latter, then it's not really quitting at all. It's making space for something better. 2. Walking away creates boundaries that protect your peace. One of the most powerful things quitting can do is establish boundaries. And believe me, boundaries are essential for protecting your peace of mind. But here's where it gets tricky. Most of us feel guilty about setting them. We think that walking away from a toxic situation, a draining relationship, or even a dead-end job is selfish. In reality, quitting something that isn't serving you is an act of self-preservation. It's you choosing your well-being over someone else's expectations. The truth is, not everything deserves your energy. There are people, projects, and commitments that slowly chip away at your mental and emotional resources. We often feel obligated to stay involved because we fear letting others down or appearing unreliable. But when you constantly say yes to everything, when you refuse to walk away from what's harmful, you're actually saying no to yourself. And here's the thing, you can't pour from an empty cup. If you're constantly giving without taking a step back to protect your energy, you're going to burn out. Walking away doesn't mean you're abandoning your responsibilities or acting carelessly. It's about acknowledging your limits and recognizing that not every battle is yours to fight. When you stay in situations that drain you, you're not being a hero. You're becoming a martyr. A boundary is not a wall to keep people out, but rather a door to let the right things in. Walking away from what crosses your boundaries is an essential step in creating a life where you're mentally and emotionally healthy. Let me share this quote. You don't owe anyone an explanation for taking care of yourself. That might sound harsh, but it's a truth we often forget. We feel like we have to justify our decisions, explain why we're walking away, or seek approval for quitting something. But the reality is, you're allowed to make decisions that benefit you, even if they don't make sense to others. Sometimes, the most important boundary you can set is learning how to say, "No, I'm done." Imagine you're building a fence around a garden. That fence isn't meant to block the sun or keep out the rain. It's designed to keep the weeds, pests, and anything harmful from invading your space. Your boundaries work in the same way. They're meant to protect the things that matter most to you, like your peace, your time, and your energy. Walking away from things that threaten those boundaries is essential if you want to nurture the life you're trying to grow. Setting boundaries through quitting is also a way of teaching people how to treat you. When you allow others to overstep your boundaries without consequence, you're teaching them that it's okay to disrespect your limits. But when you quit a situation that violates your peace, whether it's a toxic friendship or a demanding job, you're sending a clear message. Your well-being matters. You're showing the world that you refuse to tolerate anything that doesn't align with your values or goals. In the end, quitting is about reclaiming your space. It's about recognizing what you deserve and refusing to settle for anything less. Yes, walking away might upset a few people, and you might feel guilty at first. But protecting your peace is worth far more than the temporary discomfort of disappointing someone else. So, if you ever find yourself in a situation that constantly drains you, remember this. Quitting is your right, and setting boundaries is how you protect the best parts of yourself. 3. Quitting frees you from the fear of failure. One of the most profound lessons quitting teaches us is how to break free from the fear of failure. We live in a culture that glorifies perseverance at all costs. We're told to push harder, to fail forward, and to keep going no matter what. While resilience is important, sometimes our obsession with never quitting becomes a trap that feeds our fear of failure. We begin to equate quitting with losing, and that's where things get messy. The truth is, quitting is often the only way to truly overcome the fear of failure, because when you quit, you take back control of the narrative. Here's the thing. The fear of failure often keeps us stuck in situations long after they've stopped serving us. We convince ourselves that if we quit, we're admitting we couldn't make it work. and that feels too much like failure. But in reality, quitting is simply the recognition that what you're doing isn't leading to the outcome you want or need. It's the ultimate act of self-awareness and wisdom. Knowing when to walk away is about trusting yourself enough to realize that continuing down a dead-end path won't get you any closer to success. Think of quitting like changing directions on a road trip. You wouldn't keep driving down a road that's leading you further from your destination just because you've already traveled a few miles. No one would call that failing. They'd call it smart navigation. Quitting allows you to reroute. When you realize that staying where you are isn't working, it's not a failure to quit. It's the moment you take charge of your journey and choose a better path. Fear of failure is often tied to how we think others will perceive us. We're afraid that if we walk away from something, a job, a relationship, a goal, people will think we weren't strong enough or determined enough to make it work. But the truth is, people are more focused on their own lives than we give them credit for. Most of the time, those judgments we fear are only in our heads. Besides, what really matters is not what others think, but how you feel about your choices. Are you staying in something out of fear, or are you staying because it truly aligns with who you are and what you want? There's a powerful freedom that comes when you stop worrying about failure and start focusing on what's right for you. Quitting releases you from the pressure of having to succeed at something just because you started it. It gives you permission to change your mind, to pivot, to experiment. It's a declaration that your worth isn't tied to any single outcome or project. You are not defined by whether or not you finish something. You're defined by how you live, learn, and grow through your choices. One quote that sums this up beautifully is, "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." Sometimes continuing means quitting, because quitting is not about giving up. It's about having the courage to recognize when something no longer serves you and moving on to what does. When you quit, you're not running away from failure. You're running toward possibility. Quitting is a bold statement that says, "I am not afraid to let go." It's an act of liberation, and once you embrace it, you'll find that the fear of failure starts to lose its grip. The real failure isn't in quitting, it's in refusing to evolve, to change course, and to trust that better opportunities await you on the other side. By letting go of the fear of failure, you give yourself permission to thrive in ways you never imagined. 4. Quitting allows you to prioritize what truly matters. In a world where we're constantly told to juggle everything, to be successful, stay busy, and always be on, the act of quitting can seem like an admission of defeat. But in reality, quitting is one of the most effective ways to cut through the noise and focus on what truly matters. Walking away from certain commitments, obligations, or even relationships isn't about giving up. It's about making room for the things that genuinely align with your values and goals. We often find ourselves stuck in routines, responsibilities, and projects that seemed important at one point but have since lost their meaning. Yet, we stay because we've convinced ourselves that quitting is a sign of weakness or failure. However, when you quit something that no longer serves you, it's not because you're incapable of handling it. It's because you've realized that your time and energy are better spent elsewhere. Life is short, and every moment we spend on things that don't matter is a moment we're not dedicating to the things that do. Think about the commitments in your life, whether it's work, social obligations, or personal projects. How many of them actually bring you joy or fulfillment? How many of them reflect what you genuinely care about? So often, we spread ourselves thin, saying yes to everything because we fear missing out or disappointing others. But in doing so, we often end up losing touch with what's really important to us. The act of quitting can be the wake-up call we need to reassess our priorities. One powerful quote to consider is, "You can do anything, but you can't do everything." This highlights the fact that our time and energy are finite. We can either choose to focus on a few things and do them well, or we can spread ourselves across a dozen things and never truly invest in any of them. Quitting is a way of recognizing this truth. It's about saying, I'm choosing to focus on what matters most to me, and I'm willing to let go of the rest. When you quit, you're not just cutting something out of your life, you're making space. Space for more meaningful work, deeper relationships, and greater personal growth. Imagine your life as a garden. If you try to plant too many things in a small patch of soil, none of them will grow well because they're competing for nutrients, water, and sunlight. But if you're selective about what you plant, and you take care of only what truly matters, your garden will thrive. Quitting is like pruning that garden. It's about removing the excess so that the most important parts of your life can flourish. Quitting also allows you to reclaim your time, which is one of the most valuable resources you have. When you free yourself from unnecessary commitments, you give yourself the gift of time, time to invest in relationships that matter, in projects that inspire you, or simply in yourself. It's easy to get caught up in the hustle and grind of everyday life, but when you quit what's not essential, you gain the clarity and freedom to focus on what truly lights you up. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by all the things you're trying to juggle, ask yourself this: what truly matters to me? What brings me joy, fulfillment, and purpose? If something doesn't fit into that vision, don't be afraid to walk away from it. Quitting isn't about giving up. It's about choosing to live a life that's aligned with your deepest values. When you let go of what doesn't serve you, you're able to fully embrace what does. That's where the real power of quitting lies, prioritizing what truly matters. 5. Quitting breaks the cycle of overcommitment and burnout. In today's fast-paced world, the pressure to constantly be doing more is intense. We're encouraged to take on new projects, commit to more social engagements, and fill every waking moment with activity. But this relentless drive often leads us into a vicious cycle of overcommitment, which almost always ends in burnout. Quitting, when done with intention, is the key to breaking this cycle and regaining control over your life. Overcommitment sneaks up on us. It starts innocently enough, a new task at work, a favor for a friend, or an exciting hobby. But before you know it, your calendar is packed, your to-do list is overwhelming, and you barely have time to catch your breath. You might think, I can handle it, or it's just temporary. But the truth is, consistently overloading yourself leads to exhaustion, stress, and even resentment. You're not superhuman, and pretending to be one only leads to burnout. When you reach the point of burnout, your body, mind, and spirit suffer. You become less productive, less creative, and more irritable. Tasks that once excited you feel like burdens, and you start to dread the very things you once enjoyed. The irony is that by trying to do everything, you end up doing nothing well. You spread yourself so thin that there's nothing left to give, not to others, and certainly not to yourself. This is where quitting comes in as a powerful solution. Quitting is a way to acknowledge that you've taken on too much, and it's a deliberate choice to step back. It's saying, enough. But quitting isn't just about stopping. It's about recalibrating your priorities and focusing on what truly matters. By letting go of unnecessary commitments, you free up space for the things that bring you joy, meaning, and fulfillment. It's not about abandoning responsibilities. It's about being smart and selective about where your energy goes. There's a quote that goes, "You don't have to be everything to everyone." This rings true when we talk about overcommitment. We often say yes to too many things because we want to please people, meet expectations, or avoid feeling guilty. But constantly trying to be everything to everyone is not only exhausting, it's impossible. Quitting allows you to step back and redefine what's most important in your life. It helps you focus on the commitments that align with your values and purpose, rather than trying to juggle it all. Think of quitting as a form of self-care. Just as you wouldn't skip sleep or nourishment, you shouldn't ignore your mental and emotional limits. Quitting what drains you is a way of protecting your well-being. It's about creating boundaries and recognizing that your time and energy are precious resources. The more you quit things that don't serve you, the more you're able to pour into the things that do, whether that's your work, your relationships, or simply your own personal growth. Breaking the cycle of overcommitment isn't easy. It takes self-awareness and the courage to admit that you can't do it all. But the moment you decide to quit what's stretching you too thin, you reclaim your balance and peace of mind. You stop running on empty and you start living with more intention. Quitting doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're choosing to prioritize your well-being over the relentless demands of the world. And in that decision, you find true freedom. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by everything you've taken on, remember, quitting is not about giving up. It's about giving yourself permission to let go of what's unnecessary. By doing so, you break the cycle of overcommitment and avoid burnout, making room for a healthier, more fulfilling life. 6. Quitting helps you break free from the need for external validation. One of the most liberating aspects of quitting is that it allows you to break free from the constant need for external validation. We all crave approval from others, whether it's from friends, family, or society as a whole. We often pursue certain careers, relationships, or goals because they look good on the outside, or because they align with what we think others expect of us. But this need for validation can trap us in situations that don't truly make us happy. Quitting is a radical act of self-respect, where you choose to follow your own inner compass rather than living according to others' expectations. The need for validation starts early. We're taught to seek gold stars in school, praise from our parents, and later, approval from our bosses or partners. While positive feedback can be motivating, it can also become a prison if we rely on it too heavily. We stay in jobs that drain us because they give us a prestigious title. We remain in relationships that no longer serve us because they look picture perfect on social media. But when you quit something that no longer aligns with your authentic self, you're declaring that your worth isn't tied to external praise or the opinions of others. You're choosing to live for you. Quitting something that brings external validation can feel scary. There's always that fear of judgment, that voice in your head that says, "What will people think if I walk away from this?" But here's the truth. Most people are too caught up in their own lives to focus on yours for very long. And those who genuinely care about you will respect your decision to do what's best for you, even if it means quitting something that looks successful from the outside. There's a powerful quote by author Paulo Coelho. When you say yes to others, make sure you are not saying no to yourself. This is the essence of quitting in pursuit of authenticity. If you're constantly seeking validation from others, you may be saying yes to things that look good to them but feel wrong to you. Over time, this wears you down. You become disconnected from your own needs, desires, and values. Quitting helps you reclaim your voice. It's about saying no to the things that aren't serving your deeper purpose, even if those things win you praise. Walking away from external validation is a profound shift in how you view yourself. It's the difference between being driven by the need to be admired and being guided by the desire to live a life that feels true to who you are. Quitting gives you the space to reconnect with what genuinely fulfills you, not just what earns applause from the crowd. And when you stop relying on external approval, you open the door to internal validation, which is far more powerful and lasting. Internal validation comes from knowing that you're living in alignment with your values and purpose. It's the quiet confidence that you're on the right path, even if no one else understands it. Quitting what's driven by the need for approval is one of the most courageous things you can do, because it means you trust yourself enough to choose what's right for you, not what looks good to others. The beauty of quitting is that it gives you freedom, the freedom to be who you truly are, without the weight of other people's expectations holding you down. It's about honoring your own path, your own dreams, and your own definition of success. And when you quit for the right reasons, you'll find that the validation you were seeking from others doesn't matter as much anymore, because you'll already have it from within. 7. Quitting allows you to embrace change and growth. One of the most profound benefits of quitting is that it opens up space for change and growth. Often we hold on to things, whether it's a job, a relationship, or a way of thinking, because we fear change. We become comfortable, even in situations that aren't fulfilling, simply because they're familiar. But quitting is a declaration that you're ready to embrace the unknown, to step into something new, and to grow in ways you never imagined. It's not about abandoning responsibility. It's about recognizing that staying stuck is far more damaging than walking away. Growth requires movement. Just like a plant needs to be repotted when it outgrows its container, we need to shed old environments, mindsets, and commitments when they no longer support our evolution. Quitting is the first step in that process. It's an act of self-awareness that says, I've outgrown this, and I'm ready for something more. Whether it's quitting a toxic relationship or leaving behind a job that's become stagnant, you're giving yourself permission to grow. You're telling yourself that you deserve to evolve, and that staying in the same place, doing the same thing, will only stifle your potential. The fear of change often keeps us trapped in situations that no longer serve us. We might stay in an unhealthy relationship because we're scared of being alone, or we might hold on to a dead-end job because we're afraid of the uncertainty that comes with finding something new. But the irony is that by quitting, we don't just lose something, we gain. We gain freedom, clarity, and the opportunity to pursue something that truly aligns with our purpose. Quitting is not the end of the road. It's the beginning of a new journey. There's a powerful quote that says, "The only constant in life is change. Resisting change only causes frustration and limits your potential. Embracing it, on the other hand, leads to personal growth." Quitting is the way you align yourself with this universal truth. When you let go of what's no longer working, you make room for new opportunities to find you. It's like clearing out your closet. Until you get rid of the clothes you don't wear, there's no room for anything new and better to come in. Quitting works the same way in life. By letting go, you invite growth. The act of quitting also teaches you flexibility. Life rarely goes as planned, and clinging to something just because you've invested time or energy into it can keep you from adapting to new circumstances. Quitting allows you to pivot, to change direction when necessary, and to respond to the flow of life with grace rather than resistance. It's not about giving up. It's about recognizing when something no longer aligns with who you are or where you're going. Quitting is also a statement of self-trust. It takes courage to walk away from something that once defined you, whether that's a career, a relationship, or a belief system. But by quitting, you're saying, I trust myself to handle what comes next. You're acknowledging that even though the future is uncertain, you have the strength and the resilience to navigate it. Quitting allows you to step into the unknown with confidence, knowing that whatever comes, it will offer growth. Ultimately, quitting is a catalyst for transformation. It's the first step toward becoming the person you're meant to be. So if you feel stuck, unfulfilled, or restless, remember that quitting doesn't mean you're walking away from something good. It means you're walking towards something better. By embracing change and trusting in your ability to grow, you'll discover that quitting is not the end. It's the beginning of a whole new chapter in your life. 8. Quitting helps you reclaim your time and energy. Time and energy are two of the most valuable resources we have, yet we often spend them on things that don't truly matter. Whether it's staying in a draining job, holding on to toxic relationships, or pursuing goals that no longer align with our values, we tend to stick with things out of habit or obligation. But when you quit something that's no longer serving you, you reclaim both your time and energy, allowing you to reinvest them into things that bring meaning and fulfillment. Quitting becomes a powerful tool for taking back control of your life and making intentional choices about how you spend your precious resources. Think about how much time you spend on things that don't excite or energize you. Maybe you've stayed in a job for years simply because it's what you're supposed to do, even though it leaves you feeling exhausted and uninspired at the end of every day. Or perhaps you've been holding on to a relationship that drains you, not because it's fulfilling, but because you're afraid of what life would be like without it. Every day you stay in these situations, you're spending time and energy on something that isn't giving you anything in return. Quitting allows you to break this cycle and redirect your focus toward what truly matters. There's a saying that goes, "Don't spend major time on minor things." This perfectly captures the importance of quitting. It's easy to get caught up in the minor things, commitments, routines, and expectations that seem important in the moment, but don't contribute to your long-term happiness or well-being. When you quit those things, you're making a conscious decision to prioritize the major things in your life. The relationships, projects, and experiences that truly matter to you. It's about being intentional with where your time and energy go, and recognizing that you have the power to choose what deserves your attention. Quitting also allows you to protect your energy. We often think of time as our most limited resource, but energy is just as important, if not more. You could have all the time in the world, but if you're mentally and emotionally drained, that time isn't going to be well spent. Quitting toxic or draining situations frees up your mental and emotional energy, giving you the clarity and focus to pursue things that genuinely light you up. It's like clearing out the clutter in your mind, making space for creativity, joy, and peace. One of the most empowering aspects of quitting is that it puts you back in the driver's seat. So often we feel like life is happening to us, that we have no choice but to keep going down the same path. But quitting reminds you that you have the power to change course. You don't have to keep investing your time and energy into things just because you've always done them. You can decide at any moment to walk away from what no longer serves you and choose something better. That's a powerful realization. Quitting isn't about being lazy or avoiding responsibility. It's about being strategic with your resources. Time and energy are finite, and when you quit the things that drain them, you open up space for what truly fulfills you. You stop feeling like you're running on empty and start living with intention, with the energy to pursue your passions and the time to focus on the people and projects that matter most to you. In the end, quitting is about reclaiming your life. It's about recognizing that you don't owe anyone your time or energy if they're not contributing to your happiness or growth. By letting go of what's draining you, you're giving yourself the gift of time and energy to spend on the things that bring you joy and fulfillment. And that's a gift worth giving. 9. Quitting forces you to confront your comfort zone. One of the most significant reasons people resist quitting is because it forces them to step out of their comfort zone. We all have routines, habits, and situations that feel familiar, even if they're not particularly fulfilling or healthy. The thought of quitting something, a job, a relationship, or even a long-held belief can be terrifying because it pushes us into the unknown. But the truth is, real growth rarely happens within the confines of comfort. Quitting can be the catalyst that forces you to confront your comfort zone and move beyond it, opening up new possibilities for personal development. Our comfort zones are like invisible fences. We feel safe and secure inside them, even if what's within those boundaries isn't necessarily good for us. It's easy to convince ourselves that it's better to stay in a mediocre situation than risk the discomfort of change. But here's the thing. Comfort zones are deceptive. They might keep you feeling secure, but they also keep you stagnant. Quitting is a way of challenging that stagnation. It's an intentional decision to step beyond the limits of what's familiar and embrace the uncertainty of what's next. Leaving your comfort zone is never easy. And quitting often comes with a lot of fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of making the wrong decision. These fears are natural, but they're also the exact barriers that keep you from growing. When you quit something that no longer serves you, you're not just walking away from that situation, you're walking toward growth. You're saying, I'm willing to face my fears because I know there's something better on the other side. Quitting forces you to trust yourself and take a leap of faith, even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. There's a quote that says, "Great things never came from comfort zones." This perfectly captures the essence of why quitting is so important. If you never quit what's comfortable but unfulfilling, you'll never give yourself the opportunity to discover what's truly possible. You might miss out on new experiences, relationships, or opportunities simply because you were too afraid to let go of the old ones. Quitting is the act of giving yourself permission to explore beyond what you know, to embrace the discomfort of uncertainty in exchange for the possibility of growth. Another aspect of quitting that pushes you beyond your comfort zone is the idea of identity. We often tie our sense of self to the things we do, the roles we play, the relationships we have, or the goals we pursue. Quitting something can feel like losing a part of who you are, and that's scary. But it's important to remember that you're not defined by your circumstances. Quitting allows you to redefine yourself, to choose a new path, and to evolve. It's not about losing your identity, it's about discovering new layers of who you are. Quitting also teaches you resilience. When you step outside your comfort zone, you inevitably face challenges. But these challenges are where true growth happens. Quitting something comfortable and stepping into the unknown requires courage. And with that courage comes strength. You learn to adapt, to trust yourself, and to handle whatever life throws your way. Every time you quit something that's holding you back, you prove to yourself that you're capable of handling change, and that confidence is invaluable. In the end, quitting isn't just about leaving behind what's no longer working. It's about expanding your potential. It's about breaking free from the invisible walls of your comfort zone and discovering what you're truly capable of. When you quit, you create space for growth, challenge, and transformation. So, while quitting may feel uncomfortable at first, it's often the first step toward becoming the person you're meant to be. 10. Quitting helps you rediscover your authentic self. Quitting, in its most transformative sense, is not just about leaving something behind, it's about rediscovering who you truly are. So often we lose ourselves in the roles we play, the commitments we make, and the expectations we try to meet. Over time, it becomes easy to forget what we really want, who we really are, and what makes us feel alive. We become defined by our responsibilities, our jobs, our relationships, or the goals we've set for ourselves long ago. But quitting, when done with intention, gives you the opportunity to strip away those layers and reconnect with your authentic self. Think about it. How many times have you stayed in a situation not because it fulfilled you, but because it's what you thought you should do? We get caught up in other people's expectations, parents, society, partners, bosses, and before we know it, we're living a life that feels more like a script than something we've chosen for ourselves. Quitting allows you to step back and ask, is this really me? Is this really what I want? It's an invitation to reflect on whether the path you're on is truly yours, or if it's one you've been following out of habit or obligation. When you quit what no longer resonates with you, you give yourself the freedom to explore your true passions and desires. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion. As you quit the things that don't serve you, whether it's a draining job, a superficial friendship, or an outdated dream, you get closer to the core of who you are. And that's where the magic happens. When you stop living for others or following a path that's expected of you, you start living for yourself. You begin to make decisions based on your values, your passions, and your truth. There's a powerful quote by Joseph Campbell: "The privilege of a lifetime is being who you are." Quitting gives you the chance to reclaim that privilege. It's not about running away from responsibility or escaping hard work. It's about recognizing when something no longer aligns with your true self and having the courage to walk away. This process of quitting is not just external, leaving a job, ending a relationship. It's also internal. It's about quitting the internal narratives that keep you small. It's about letting go of the belief that you have to be a certain way to be accepted or loved. Rediscovering your authentic self is a journey, and quitting is often the first step. Once you release the things that no longer fit, you start to gain clarity about what does. You begin to notice what brings you joy, what excites you, what sparks your creativity. You start to live in alignment with your true desires, rather than chasing someone else's idea of success. Quitting allows you to create a life that feels more intentional, more meaningful, and more aligned with who you are at your core. Of course, rediscovering your authentic self through quitting isn't easy. It requires deep self-reflection and a willingness to face uncomfortable truths. It might mean letting go of identities you've clung to for years, or walking away from things that once defined you. But in doing so, you make space for something far more valuable: your own voice, your own desires, and your own truth. In the end, quitting isn't just about leaving behind what no longer works. It's about creating a life that's true to who you are. It's about giving yourself permission to evolve, to change direction, and to pursue what makes you feel alive. By quitting what's not authentically you, you open the door to rediscovering the person you were always meant to be. 11. Quitting is the first step toward reinvention. One of the most powerful aspects of quitting is that it creates space for reinvention. When we think about quitting, we often focus on what we're leaving behind, whether it's a job, a relationship, or a goal that no longer fits. But what's more important is what we're moving toward. Quitting isn't just an ending, it's the beginning of something new. It's the first step in redefining who you are and what you want from life. In this way, quitting becomes a doorway to reinvention, giving you the opportunity to reshape your life in a way that aligns with your evolving self. Reinvention is a natural part of life. As we grow and change, our values, desires, and needs evolve. What made sense for us 5 or 10 years ago might not feel right anymore. And that's okay. The problem arises when we hold on to the past out of fear, even when it no longer fits. Maybe you chose a career path that felt right at the time, but now feels like a cage. Or maybe you're in a relationship that once felt supportive, but now holds you back. Quitting is the courageous act of recognizing that who you are now is not who you were then. And that's not a failure, but a sign of growth. The fear of reinvention often keeps us stuck. We get attached to the identities we've built over the years: the successful professional, the perfect partner, the person who has it all together. And we fear that quitting will mean losing those identities. But the truth is, reinvention is about expanding your sense of self, not diminishing it. It's about shedding old layers so you can step into a version of yourself that feels more aligned with where you are now. Quitting doesn't mean you're walking away from everything you've accomplished. It means you're making room for new achievements and new ways of being. One quote that resonates deeply with this idea is by American author and poet Mary Oliver. "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" Quitting is often the answer to that question. It's the moment when you decide that you want more from life than what you've been settling for. It's the decision to pursue what truly matters to you, even if it means stepping into the unknown. Reinvention doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you consciously choose to quit what's no longer working and move toward what excites and challenges you. Reinvention requires courage. When you quit something that's been a big part of your life, it can feel disorienting. You might worry about what's next, about how to fill the space that quitting creates, but that space is where the magic happens. It's a blank canvas where you get to paint a new picture of your life, one that reflects who you are today. Quitting frees up your time, energy, and mental space, allowing you to explore new passions, set new goals, and reimagine what success looks like for you. The beauty of reinvention is that it's not about abandoning your past, it's about integrating it. Everything you've experienced up to this point has shaped you, and quitting simply means you're choosing to take that wisdom and apply it in new ways. It's a chance to redefine success on your own terms, to set goals that align with your authentic self, and to live a life that feels more intentional and fulfilling. Ultimately, quitting is the beginning of reinvention. It's the bold step of letting go of what's familiar so you can step into something unknown and exciting. It's about embracing the possibility of change and trusting that whatever comes next will be more aligned with who you are and who you're becoming. By quitting, you open the door to a life that's not just about surviving, but about thriving, and that's the true power of reinvention. 12. Quitting teaches you the value of letting go at its core. Quitting is an act of letting go of control, expectations, and the need for things to be a certain way. We often view quitting as a loss, as if it's something negative or shameful. But in reality, knowing when to let go is one of the most powerful skills you can develop. It's an acknowledgement that not everything is meant to last forever, and that's okay. By quitting, you release yourself from the pressure to force something that's no longer working, and in doing so, you open yourself up to new possibilities and greater freedom. Letting go isn't easy. We cling to people, careers, habits, and dreams that may have once served us, but over time, they can become burdens. We hold on out of fear of the unknown, fear of regret, or fear of judgment from others. But here's the truth. Clinging to something just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's good for you. Quitting is about realizing that sometimes the things we hold on to are the very things holding us back. When you quit, you free yourself from the weight of what no longer serves you and allow yourself to move forward unburdened. There's a well-known Buddhist proverb that says, "You only lose what you cling to." This captures the essence of why quitting is so transformative. When we refuse to let go, we lose more than we gain. We lose our peace of mind, our ability to grow, and our openness to new experiences. Quitting teaches you that letting go is not about loss, but about creating space for something better. It's about recognizing that holding on to something out of habit or fear doesn't bring fulfillment, it brings stagnation. Letting go, on the other hand, brings freedom and clarity. Another important aspect of quitting is the emotional weight it helps lift. We often carry emotional baggage from situations that no longer serve us, whether it's a job that drains us or a relationship that's run its course. By quitting, you give yourself permission to release that baggage and move forward with a lighter heart. Letting go of what's toxic or unfulfilling creates emotional space for healing and growth. It allows you to reclaim your energy and direct it toward things that truly matter to you. Quitting also helps you develop trust in life's natural ebb and flow. Life is constantly changing, and the ability to adapt and let go is essential for resilience. When you quit something that's no longer right for you, you're trusting that there's something better ahead, even if you can't see it yet. This trust is crucial because it shifts your mindset from one of scarcity to one of abundance. Instead of fearing what you're losing, you begin to embrace the possibilities of what you're gaining by letting go. The lesson of letting go is not just about quitting external things, it's also about quitting internal habits that limit you. It's about letting go of perfectionism, unrealistic expectations, or the need to control every outcome. When you quit these mental and emotional patterns, you allow yourself to live with more ease and flexibility. Letting go becomes a practice of self-compassion, where you accept that you don't have to have it all figured out, and that's perfectly fine. In the end, quitting is a form of liberation. It's about releasing the things that weigh you down so you can rise to new heights. It teaches you that letting go is not a sign of failure, but a sign of wisdom and self-respect. By learning to quit what no longer serves you, you create space for growth, happiness, and the possibility of a life that's more aligned with your true self. Letting go is the ultimate act of self-care. It's how you move forward, unburdened and free. As we've explored, quitting isn't about giving up. It's about growing, reclaiming your time, protecting your peace, and finding your true self. Every decision to walk away opens up space for something better, something more aligned with who you are and where you're going. The power of letting go isn't a sign of weakness, but of wisdom, of knowing when to say, "This no longer serves me, and I'm ready for what's next." Now, I know these lessons can spark a lot of thoughts and even a bit of soul-searching. Maybe you've recognized something in your own life that it's time to let go of. Or maybe you've already taken that leap. Either way, I'd love to hear about it. Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. What have you quit that led to your biggest breakthrough? And hey, if you found these lessons valuable, you know what to do. Hit that like button and subscribe for more insights that will challenge the way you think and live. Trust me, this journey is just getting started, and there's so much more to explore together. Ready to keep evolving? Stick around and let's keep growing, one bold decision at a time.